Her ex-husband never missed a chance to mock her, calling her broke, calling her worthless, telling anyone who would listen that she would never rise again after the divorce. She worked quietly, endured the shame, and raised her child with nothing but grit. But what he didn't know was that fate was about to turn, and she would inherit something so unexpected, so powerful, that even he was left speechless. Before we dive into this emotional story of injustice, resilience, and redemption, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because these stories will grip your heart and keep you watching until the very last second. The grocery store parking lot always felt like a stage she hadn't auditioned for. Maria balanced a bag of generic cereal on her hip, nudging the cart with a scuffed sneaker while her son, Leo, fished for the last can of tomatoes in the trunk. She kept her head down, hoping to be invisible. A horn chirped. A glossy SUV slid into the spot beside her, tires whispering on the asphalt. The window lowered, and there he was, Ethan, her ex-husband with the forever tan and the new watch he liked to place in conversations like punctuation. A woman with a perfect blowout sat in the passenger seat scrolling her phone. "Maria," Ethan drawled, leaning an elbow on the window. "Still hunting the discount aisle?" Thought the judge made that spousal support generous. His grin was a knife he polished in public. "Guess it's hard to stretch pennies when you don't have a plan." Leo stiffened, the can pausing midair. Maria pressed her palm to his shoulder before he could speak. "We're fine," she said evenly. Ethan's eyes flicked to the dent in her trunk, the taped taillight, the bag of off-brand cereal. "Sure you are." He placed 2 fingers to his temple in a mock salute. "Don't forget parent night. Some of us will be there." The SUV slid away, exhaust trailing a faint sweetness that made Maria taste metal. For a moment, the wind moved everything and nothing. Leo replaced the can carefully, as if the smallest noise might crack something inside his chest. "Mom, he doesn't. It's noise," Maria said, swallowing what he didn't have to. "It's just noise." She drove home with the windows down and the radio off, letting the air scrape the edges of her thoughts. In the quiet, she performed her private arithmetic. Rent due Friday, light bill overdue. Leo's field trip form crumpled in her purse with a $25 fee circled in red. Her phone buzzed in the cup holder. Unknown caller. She ignored it. Then it buzzed again, and again. On the 4th ring, she answered. "Hello, Ms. Ortega?" A woman's voice asked, crisp as a folded letter. "This is Dana Walsh, legal assistant to Patton and Reeves. I'm calling regarding the estate of Mr. Arturo Pena. There's a matter that requires your presence." Maria pulled into a side street and coasted to a stop. I don't know any Mr. Pena." A pause. "He listed you in his will." Scam, she thought automatically. The last time something urgent came by phone, it was a debt collector using a fake sheriff badge image to threaten liens that didn't exist. "If this is about money, I don't have any," she said flatly. "It isn't about money you owe," Dana said, tone softening. "It's about an inheritance." Maria exhaled a laugh without humor. "You've got the wrong Maria. We verified your address and date of birth," the woman continued. "Mr. Pena passed 3 weeks ago. The reading is tomorrow at 10. If you prefer, I can send the notice by certified mail and we can reschedule." The name rolled inside her head like a marble until it clicked somewhere unexpected. Mr. Pena, the older man with the navy cap who came through her grocery line every Tuesday with milk, plantains, and the same quiet joke about price tags being bad at math. He'd once fainted near the freezer aisle. She sat on the floor with him until the paramedics came, holding his hand while he blinked at the bright ceiling and whispered, "No hospital, my cat." She had written a note and taped it to his apartment door so the super would feed a gray tabby named Dulce. He'd started calling her Mija after that, not like a father claiming something, but like a neighbor remembering the proper word for a kindness. "He passed," Maria repeated, the world tilting a degree. I'm sorry. I didn't know." "I'll email the details," Dana said. "If you can come, it will be brief." After she hung up, Maria stared at the dusty dashboard and let the slim thread of possibility hum in her hands. Inheritance. The word felt like a stranger trying on her coat. At home, she kept it to herself. She boiled rice, crisped the last onions, sliced a single lime carefully into eighths to make it stretch. Leo told her about a robotics demo he wanted to see at school, voice brightening the way a match lifts a dark room. The fee's $25, but I can help set up chairs if they... We'll figure it out, she said, because that was her brand of magic trick. Turning we can't into maybe until the deadline blinked and she produced an answer no one would applaud. That night, sleep came in pieces. The edges of Ethan's laughter kept finding their way under the door. When morning finally pried up the sky, she ironed her one good blouse with a towel and a pot of hot water, coaxing the fabric to remember its better life. Leo hugged her hard at the curb. Good luck, Mom. The law office smelled like lemon cleaner and printer heat. The receptionist's smile was efficient. The chairs were the kind that punished slouching. Two other people sat across from her. A woman in scrubs staring at her shoes and a man in work boots rubbing a scar on his knuckle. No one spoke. Ms. Ortega? A man in a navy suit held the door. I'm Michael Reeves. Thank you for coming on short notice. They settled around a polished table. Michael opened a red wax-sealed folder and placed a single page on a leather blotter. First, he said, Mr. Pena asked us to express gratitude. He left a note addressed to you. He slid a handwritten card across the table. Mija, thank you for being the kind of person who stays on the floor when everyone else stands. Dulce never missed a meal because of you. Neither did I. Maria's eyes stung. She blinked until the words steadied. Now, Michael continued, laying out the formal document. Pursuant to his last will and testament, Mr. Pena makes 3 bequests. He nodded toward the woman in scrubs. To Ms. Alvarez, he leaves the contents of his apartment. To Mr. Ortiz, the man in boots, his truck and tools. And to Ms. Maria Ortega, he paused, almost smiling. He leaves the remainder of his estate, including the asset held at Box Harbor Storage, Unit C-17, and all associated rights. Maria frowned. Storage. Michael tapped a second envelope. Inside is a key, a code, and a list. I can summarize if you'd like. Her hands didn't move. Please. The unit contains, among other items, a set of documents related to a life insurance policy, a ledger of rental income, and he glanced at the page again, as if confirming he hadn't misread it. A binder labeled Shares Founders, with certificates from a technology company Mr. Pena invested in 30 years ago. That company went public last year. The room thinned around her. Shares, she echoed, the syllable sudden and expensive. Founders' shares, the attorney said gently. As of yesterday's close, the portfolio in that binder is valued in the low 8 figures. The number didn't compute. 8 figures did not fit inside her grocery line. It didn't sit in a cart beside tomatoes. It didn't bend to a judge's smirk or a tail light held together with tape. Michael slid the small, cold key toward her. He named you beneficiary. You'll need counsel, a financial advisor, and time. But, Ms. Ortega, your life just changed. Her phone vibrated against the table. Ethan's name flashed across the screen, insistently bright. Maria didn't pick up. The attorney folded his hands. There's one more thing, he said. Mr. Pena left a condition attached to those shares. She felt the ground move under her feet. A condition? Michael nodded. Yes, to receive them, you must do something specific and very public. Maria's fingers hovered over the key on the table as though it might burn her. The lawyer's words echoed, very public. She swallowed hard. Michael Reeves, calm and deliberate, slid a second sheet across the polished desk. Mr. Pena's bequest comes with one stipulation. In his own handwriting, he stated, Maria must use the first portion of this inheritance to establish a community fund in her name, dedicated to families in financial crisis. The announcement must be made publicly, and she must stand as its representative. Maria blinked. A community fund? Me? Michael nodded. He described it as repayment for kindness. He said you would know how to make the money reach the right people. The other heirs, Ms. Alvarez and Mr. Ortiz, stared at her with expressions that shifted between envy and awe. Maria's pulse raced. The idea of holding 8 figures in her hands was unthinkable. The idea of becoming the face of a community effort. Terrifying. She had lived in shadows, surviving paycheck to paycheck, mocked by her ex for failing. She wasn't someone who gave speeches or stood at podiums. I can't, she whispered. Michael leaned forward. You can. And you don't have to do it alone. The firm will guide you. But Maria, if you decline the condition, the bequest defaults to the secondary beneficiary. Maria stiffened. Who's that? Michael's lips pressed thin. Ashmont Ridge Charitable Trust. She let out a bitter laugh. A company. He nodded gravely. Exactly. And Mr. Pena wanted it in your hands, not theirs. By the time Maria left the office, the clouds had broken, sunlight scattering across wet sidewalks. She clutched the small envelope with the storage unit key, her mind buzzing. Community fund, 8 figures, and a condition that would pull her out of the quiet corners she had hidden in. Her phone buzzed again. Ethan. She let it ring out. But at the bus stop, it buzzed once more, then again. Finally, she answered, jaw tight. Well, Ethan's voice oozed satisfaction. So it's true. I heard from a little bird at the bank. You got yourself a miracle. Maria's stomach dropped. How do you? You forget I still have friends in places that matter. Word travels fast when a grocery clerk suddenly inherits more than pocket change. His laugh cut like glass. Funny how I was mocked for saying you'd never make it. Turns out I was wrong, though not for the reasons you'd like to admit. Stay out of this, Ethan, Maria snapped. Stay out? Maria, we share a son. What's his is mine to influence. Courts love a parent with financial stability. Don't think this changes just your life. It changes mine too. The line went dead, but the echo of his arrogance lingered like smoke. That evening, Maria sat with Leo at their kitchen table. Bills were spread out, the usual battlefield of overdue stamps and red numbers. Leo studied her face. Mom, what happened today? She hesitated, then slid the envelope across to him. This key. It's to something Mr. Pena left us. Leo frowned, curious. Like what? Like, enough to change everything. She reached for his hand. But there's a catch. We'd have to use part of it for other families like us. And it means being public. Standing in front of people. Telling our story. Leo's eyes widened. That's amazing, Mom. You always said if we had more, you'd help others. Now you can. Maria tried to smile, but Ethan's warning buzzed in her mind. Courts love a parent with financial stability. She saw the battle lines forming. The next morning, Maria visited the storage unit. Inside, dust floated in the air like memory. Boxes were stacked neatly, each labeled in Mr. Pena's tidy script. In the corner sat the binder. She opened it carefully. Rows of stock certificates, each stamped with the name of a tech company now worth billions. Atop the binder was a single note. Don't let the loudest voices tell your story. Make them listen to yours. Maria pressed the note to her chest, her mother's face flashing in her mind, then Leo's. For the first time, the weight of being mocked felt smaller than the weight of what she could become. But as she left the unit, the hairs on her neck prickled. A man in a dark suit leaned against a black car at the curb, phone pressed to his ear, eyes locked on her. Maria tightened her grip on the envelope and walked faster. The man smiled faintly and spoke into the phone. Yes, she has it. She's moving forward. The man by the black car haunted Maria's thoughts all night. She double-locked the door, but sleep refused to come. Every creak of the old house, every passing headlight across the curtains made her pulse spike. She told herself she was imagining things, but deep down, she knew Ethan would never stand idle once he smelled money. By morning, the whispers had already begun. At the grocery store checkout where Maria worked, a coworker leaned close. Hey, is it true? About you inheriting millions? Maria froze. Where did you hear that? The woman shrugged. Words all over town. Some guy came in last night, asking about you. Said you won some lottery. Maria forced a smile and scanned the next item, her chest burning. Ethan was stirring the pot, letting gossip spread like wildfire. At home, Leo dropped his backpack on the couch. Mom, kids at school said Dad told everyone you're rich now. He even told the coach he might sponsor the soccer team. Maria clenched her fists. He's using you to get close to this money. Don't listen. But Leo hesitated. Does this mean we don't have to worry anymore? About bills? About everything? Maria's heart ached. It means things might get easier, but it also means people who never cared about us before will suddenly pretend they do. 2 days later, the first official blow landed. A letter from Ethan's lawyer arrived, bold and smug. Petition for custody modification. Maria read the lines with trembling hands. Ethan claimed Maria was financially inexperienced, vulnerable to exploitation, and therefore incapable of responsibly providing stability for Leo. He argued that his own financial acumen made him better suited now that their son's future depended on protecting generational wealth. Her stomach turned. Generational wealth. Ethan didn't care about Leo. He cared about control. That evening, Maria met with attorney Hart. Robert had recommended her. In a modest office stacked with case files, Hart scanned the letter, shaking her head. Classic tactic. He smells money, so suddenly he's the hero father. Judges see through this, but only if you're ready to fight. Maria exhaled shakily. I don't know if I am. Hart studied her. Mr. Pena left you that condition for a reason. The community fund isn't just charity. It's proof you're capable, resilient, and trusted. If you stand up and announce it, you won't just be honoring him. You'll be showing the court that you're more than what Ethan paints you to be. The thought of standing in front of microphones made Maria's throat tighten. But Leo's face flickered in her mind. The boy who had endured the whispers, the jokes, the taped taillight rides. She couldn't let Ethan rewrite their story. The next week, she made her decision. Maria contacted the local community center and scheduled a press announcement. I'm doing it, she told Hart. If this is the only way to keep Ethan from stealing what's ours, then I'll stand tall, no matter how loud my knees knock. Word spread quickly. Reporters RSVP'd. Neighbors gossiped louder. And Ethan? He called her that night, his tone dripping venom. You think standing on a stage makes you strong? He sneered. All it does is put a target on your back. You'll embarrass yourself, Maria. And when you do, I'll be there to take what's left. Maria's voice was steady. You've mocked me long enough, Ethan. This time, people will see you for who you are. She hung up before he could respond. On the morning of the announcement, Maria stood behind the curtain of the community center stage. The binder of shares sat in her bag, her mother's blouse ironed crisp. Her heart thundered as the crowd buzzed beyond the curtain. Reporters, townspeople, curious faces. Leo squeezed her hand. You can do this, Mom. She forced a breath, nodding. We can. The stage manager gave the cue. The curtain was about to rise. And in the corner of the room, she spotted him, Ethan, whispering to a man in the same dark suit who had waited outside the storage unit. Maria's stomach sank. This wasn't just about her ex. Something larger was moving in the shadows, and she was about to step into its light. The curtain lifted with a slow groan, and suddenly Maria was standing in front of more eyes than she'd ever imagined. The community center auditorium was full, neighbors, reporters with flashing cameras, and even a few curious strangers. For a moment, the lights blinded her, the murmurs swelling into a wave that threatened to knock her down. Her throat went dry. She clutched the small note card she had written the night before, hands trembling. But then she saw Leo in the front row, sitting tall, his eyes shining with pride. Her chest steadied. She stepped to the podium. Good morning, Maria began, her voice shaking. Most of you know me, though not for anything glamorous. I've bagged your groceries, scanned your coupons, and helped you find the right aisle when the signs were wrong. Laughter rippled gently through the crowd. She swallowed, found her breath. Life hasn't been easy. After my divorce, I worked hard just to keep a roof over my son's head. There were nights we didn't know how we'd pay the bills. And there were times when people laughed at us, when my ex-husband laughed at us for being broke. But what they didn't know was that kindness can echo farther than cruelty ever will. She lifted the letter Mr. Pena had left her. An older neighbor I barely knew saw kindness in the smallest act, and he left me a gift I never expected. With it, I could disappear into comfort, but that's not what he wanted. His condition was clear: use it to help others like me. And that's what I intend to do. The crowd leaned forward, captivated. I am proud to announce the Pena Ortega Community Fund, dedicated to helping struggling families in our town find their footing again. Rent relief, school supplies, emergency food. It will be there for them. Because no parent should feel powerless, and no child should ever be mocked for what they don't have. Applause burst across the room. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras flashed like stars. Maria exhaled, her hands still trembling but her voice steady. From the side of the stage, Ethan's jaw tightened. He leaned toward the suited man beside him, muttering angrily. The man slipped a folded envelope into his hand. As Maria finished, the moderator opened the floor for questions. A reporter raised her hand. Ms. Ortega, how do you plan to manage such a large inheritance? Some say it's too much responsibility for someone without financial experience. Maria's heart pounded, but she forced herself to answer. I'm no expert, but I've learned to stretch a dollar farther than most. And I'm surrounded by honest advisors, people who believe in this mission. What I lack in experience, I make up for in determination. More applause. But then Ethan's voice cut through the clapping. Really? Determination? Or is this just a sob story to cover up the truth? The room stilled. Ethan stepped forward, his voice loud, his eyes gleaming. She wasn't chosen because she's special. She was chosen by mistake. Maria Ortega is reckless. She's broke, she's desperate, and she'll squander every cent. I know because I lived with her. I watched her fail every day. Gasps spread through the audience. Maria's face flushed hot, her hands gripping the podium. Ethan's words twisted like barbed wire. The same taunts she'd heard in private, now flung for everyone to hear. Before she could respond, the suited man stepped up beside Ethan, pulling out a document. He held it high. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Charles Hale. I represent Ashmont Ridge Trust. And I have here proof that Ms. Ortega is not the rightful beneficiary. Reporters surged forward. Cameras zoomed in. Maria's heart dropped. That's a lie. Hale smirked. We'll let the courts decide. Until then, I advise the community not to place their hopes in someone standing on stolen ground. The applause turned into a wave of whispers. Flashes kept firing, but now every lens was angled not with admiration, but suspicion. Leo shot up from his chair. Mom, don't listen to them. But Maria felt the stage tilt beneath her feet, the world closing in. And in the chaos, Ethan's smirk returned, sharper than ever. The headlines came fast. By the next morning, Maria's name was plastered across local news sites. Inheritance under fire. Did divorced mom really deserve it? Ashmont Ridge Trust challenges beneficiary claim. Community fund or personal fortune? Maria sat at the kitchen table, the newspaper spread out in front of her. Leo stirred his cereal quietly, his usual chatter gone. Mom, he whispered. Why are they saying you stole it? Her chest tightened. She reached across the table, squeezing his hand. Because when people can't win with the truth, they invent lies. Don't believe them. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. Ashmont Ridge had money, lawyers, influence. They could twist the story until she looked like the villain. Attorney Hart called before noon. Maria, I saw the press conference fallout. They're playing dirty. Ashmont Ridge just filed a petition claiming the will was altered. Maria's jaw dropped. Altered? That's insane. I read it myself. They're accusing Pena of being manipulated in his final months, Hart explained. They'll say you took advantage of an old man's kindness. Maria slammed her fist on the table. I never. I know, Hart cut in. But proving that in court takes more than anger. We need witnesses. People who saw your relationship with Pena. People who can testify that he trusted you. Maria's mind raced. She remembered the afternoons he'd stopped by the store just to tell her Dulce. His cat was eating well. The day she sat with him after he fainted. The times he called her Mija with a smile. "I'll find them," she said. But Ethan wasn't done. That evening, he showed up at her door uninvited, leaning against the frame with his arms crossed. "Quite a show you put on," he sneered. "But it won't last. You think people want a broke grocery clerk running a fund? No, they want winners. And guess what? When the dust settles, I'll be holding Leo's custody papers in one hand and your so-called inheritance in the other." Maria glared at him. "You'll never take Leo from me." He leaned in, voice low. "Courts love stability. And Ashmont Ridge? They love partners who play ball. I'd start thinking about what you're willing to lose." She slammed the door in his face, her hands trembling. The next day, Maria met with Hart again, this time bringing Robert Lane, the bank manager who had discovered the original trust documents. Robert spread copies across the table. "They're trying to rewrite history," he said, his voice steady. "But I have archived records showing Mr. Pena renewed his trust just 2 years ago." He listed Maria by name. "There's no mistake." Hart's eyes lit up. This could break their case wide open. "But we'll need him to testify in court." "Robert, are you willing?" Robert hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but you should know. I've already been threatened. An anonymous call warned me to keep quiet or lose everything." Maria's stomach twisted. "They're scared. That means we're close." That night, Maria sat on the edge of her bed, holding Pena's handwritten note. "Don't let the loudest voices tell your story," she whispered into the quiet. "Then I'll tell it myself." The next morning, she walked into the community center again. This time not for an announcement, but for a gathering she organized overnight. Families in need, neighbors who had seen her kindness at the store, even a few strangers, all came. Maria stood before them, her voice stronger now. "Some people say I don't deserve this inheritance. But you've seen me. You've known me. I've worked beside you, cried with you, and stood in line with you. I'm not perfect, but I'm not a thief. And I promise you this, no matter what they try to take, this fund will stand." The crowd erupted in applause, louder than before. But in the back of the room, 2 suited men watched silently, their expressions unreadable. One lifted a phone to his ear and murmured, "She's not backing down. We'll have to escalate." The courthouse was packed. Reporters filled every row, cameras flashing as Maria walked in with Leo at her side. Her palms sweated, but her steps didn't falter. Today was the day the lies would finally be weighed against the truth. Across the aisle, Ethan sat smugly with his lawyer, whispering to the suited men from Ashmont Ridge. He glanced at Maria and mouthed, "This ends today." Maria lifted her chin. Yes, she thought, it does. The judge entered. "We are here to address the matter of the Pena estate and the allegations of undue influence." Attorney Hart rose. "Your Honor, this case is not about greed. It's about honoring a man's final wish. Mr. Pena chose Maria Ortega not because she was powerful or wealthy, but because she showed him compassion when no one else did. And the evidence is undeniable." Hart called Robert Lane to the stand. His voice was steady, though his hands trembled slightly. "I reviewed Mr. Pena's trust documents. They were valid, renewed within the last 2 years, and they explicitly name Ms. Ortega. I also found records that Ashmont Ridge attempted to suppress." Murmurs swept the courtroom. Next, Hart called Ms. Alvarez, the nurse who often visited Pena. She described how Pena had spoken of Maria warmly, calling her the daughter he never had. Ortiz, the handyman, testified as well. He trusted her more than anyone. Maria's eyes welled as their voices built a shield around her. Then it was Ethan's turn. He swaggered to the stand, full of practiced charm. Maria always struggled with money. She barely managed to provide for Leo. Mr. Pena was confused in his final months. It's clear she manipulated him. Hart stood sharply. "Objection. Do you have evidence?" Ethan faltered. Well, no, but anyone who knows her. The judge raised a hand. Without evidence, this is speculation. Strike it. Ethan's smugness cracked. Finally, Maria was called. She stepped to the stand, clutching Pena's handwritten letter. Her voice trembled, but it carried. Mr. Pena didn't leave me this because I was rich or influential. He left it because once, when no one else would, I sat with him on the floor of a grocery store until he was safe. Because I made sure his cat was fed. Because I listened. He saw value in compassion when the world laughed at me for being poor. She held up the note. This is his voice, not mine. Don't let the loudest voices tell your story. Make them listen to yours. I'm asking you to let his story stand. The courtroom was silent, the weight of her words pressing into every corner. The judge leaned forward. The court finds no evidence of undue influence. The will stands. Maria Ortega is the rightful beneficiary of Mr. Pena's estate. Furthermore, the court admonishes Ashmont Ridge for attempting to misrepresent the facts. The gavel struck once. Final. The courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambled. People clapped. Some even cheered. Ethan stormed out, his face red with fury, the smugness gone forever. Leo ran to Maria, throwing his arms around her. You did it, Mom. We did it. Maria hugged him tightly, tears spilling freely. We kept our promise, Mijo. We made them listen. Weeks later, Maria stood at the ribbon cutting of the Pena Ortega Community Fund. Families gathered, children laughed, and the plaque on the wall bore both her name and Pena's. Neighbors who once pitted her now looked with respect. Maria wasn't just the woman mocked in the grocery line. She was the woman who turned pain into purpose. As cameras flashed, she smiled. Not for fame, but for Leo, for Pena, and for every parent who had ever been told they were less than enough. Maria's journey shows that injustice can break you down, but resilience builds you back stronger. From humiliation to triumph, she proved that compassion is more powerful than greed. If her story inspired you, subscribe for more emotional stories, comment with the part that touched you most, and share this video with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes the loudest voices aren't the ones worth listening to.